Hello friends, got a bit of a different video for you today. Today I will be reading the newest Tamriel rebuild teaser and sort of reacting to it. Now, it's not a video, it's just an article, but I thought I would do this because I'm always excited for when the Tamriel rebuild team releases something new. For me, Tamriel rebuild and Project Tamriel releases are honestly just the most exciting game releases that happen every year, so I'm always excited to see what they have in store for us. And I'm definitely still planning to play Tamriel Rebuild and Project Tamriel on my channel. I'm just thinking about the format that's going to take at the moment, but more Tamriel Rebuild content is definitely coming. Alright, so what do we have here? Tamriel Rebuild Poison Song teaser, and this looks like an Indoril architectural set, I think. Tamriel Rebuild is a mod for TS3 Morrowind, which aims to complete the original scope of the game by bringing you the mainland of the Morrowind province that was cut from the original game. The mod is released in an episodic fashion, each new expansion bringing to life a fully realized portion of the mainland, complete with unique landscapes, cities, and dungeons, all fully decked out with creatures, NPCs, and innumerable quests. By now, players can download and experience almost triple the playable area of the original game with over 900 new quests. Yes, and if you have never played this mod, that's definitely what it feels like. You feel like it's just this endless land that you could not possibly go through in a single playthrough, or even in 2 or 3 complete playthroughs. It's amazing how much this mod adds to Morrowind, and I honestly can't really imagine playing the game without it anymore. As far as I'm concerned, this is the canon Elder Scrolls content. And we can completely disregard Oblivion and Skyrim. Like this is where it's at now. So, Grasping Fortune, our biggest and most ambitious expansion to date, is now done and dusted. So we at Tamriel Rebuild have in recent months turned most of our attention towards the next upcoming expansion, Poison Song. Longtime followers will know that this, for the first time, means a joinable house Indoril. Oh, that is super exciting. I think so far we were only able to join the the 3 vanilla great houses. But yeah, this is Indoril, and we are still missing House Dress, I'm pretty sure. So that's also coming down the line. In the following article, we aim to dive a little deeper than that and give you a teaser into everything that the expansion will offer. Okay, that's exciting. So where are we? Looks like we are right around Amalexia, though of course the city itself is not included, as that's going to take a lot more time and effort, so I think they will release the city pretty much as a standalone expansion. And even then, it's probably going to be one of the most intense ones in terms of the amount of content that it offers. But we are also quite close to an old Ebonheart, which is an area that I have explored. I have done a playthrough around this area, I would say. So yeah, old Ebonheart and then Balfoyen and Almaster were like the main places that I would visit. I've also been to Dondro, so they are overhauling parts of what I've seen as well. I remember hearing about that. Apparently they overhaul the architectural set, I think. For whatever reason, I'm sure this article is going to go deeper into that. So yeah, this is a remade area. These are touch-ups or settlement remakes. That's probably the architectural set that I'm talking about. And this is a completely new area. And yeah, this is all playable. So you can basically explore right up to Amalexia, but not quite in the city yet, which nevertheless is amazing. Looks standard size of a Tamriel Rebuild expansion to me from what I've seen. Background: the sub-project that became Poison Song got started already in mid-2021, at a time when we were well into development of the experimental Embers of Empire expansion. Embers of Empire was on an almost heretical experiment at remaking a large old portion of our mod, namely the western seaboard of the Telvanni Peninsula and settlements like Firewatch and Helnim, which dated in parts back to 2002 and 2003. Only a few years prior to that, redo has been a dirty word in the TR community. Our team, which was significantly smaller at the time, felt it would draw much needed resources away from developing new lands into House Lalu ruled southwestern Morrowind, which has remained our main focus for a few years. Yeah, I mean, with a monumental modding effort like that, redoing stuff is of course something that detracts from the progress, but it is inevitable, right? Because as the team gets better, you sort of set these new standards, and you have to live up to them. And Tamriel Rebuild, by the way, have an absolutely fascinating history of the project on their website. And if you care at all, you should check it out, because it's incredible how this 24-year-old mod, I believe at this point, has evolved, and the challenges that they faced and the obstacles that they've overcome. It's truly a monumental project, and kudos to everyone involved in this. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was also going to say that some of the areas do need sort of a remake. I have also visited the Telvannis area, the northern Telvannis, up there in the corner, and I think that area came out in 2006, and it was pretty obvious that it's not up to the current standards. So uh, I know that there's kind of a controversy between creating new content and redoing old content, but if half of the old content is kind of substandard these days, which by the way is not to shit talk the developers that worked on them back in the day. I'm sure they were very impressive for Morrowind's modding community in 2006. But now it's kind of weird to have areas where you shouldn't go, you know, and areas which you are meant to go at this point, because the discrepancy is just so big that you feel it, you know, and it kind of breaks the immersion. So it's great to see them tackling some of their older content as well. At the Gates of New Firewatch, released in 2022 as part of the Embers of Empire expansion. Right, I think I remember that one. I don't think I have really played it. I think I popped into Firewatch and that was it for me. But volunteer developers come in different stripes. While some love the race towards the completion of the entire province, others find it much more motivating to make sure that what is already released is in top-notch condition. Right, that's what I was talking about. So in 2020, as our team grew on the backs of the successful old Ebonheart and Anthern expansions, and probably the COVID lockdowns as well, we started Embers of Empire as an experiment in a targeted overhaul that would sate the latter type of developer. Built in parallel to the mainline Dominions of Dust expansion, Embers turned out to be a huge success, revamping one of the oldest and most poorly aged parts of the mod into an area we remain truly proud of. It was only natural that we wanted to replicate that success, so we turned to the next item in our triage list, being the Sundered Scar region just east of Old Ebonheart. Sundered Scar region, yes, that's what it's called. I'm always it's always a bit difficult for me to remember my Morrowind geography, because the province is really big with Tamriel Rebuild added. What is striking about the Scar as it stands today is that it was developed explicitly as filler land, i.e. that it had very few points of interest and reason for visiting. The area was largely made by 2003, at a time when Morrowind's continued popularity was by no means a given, and when completing the mod as fast as possible seemed paramount. The world space was crafted using Bitter Coast assets, with a largely flat landscape and with minimal dungeon entrances. Though the level design was improved somewhat by the time the area was first released to players in 2012, the region still suffers from that original neglect and is seldom played through, especially since it hosts barely a couple of quests. Yeah, that's definitely something that would break the immersion if you go into that area. So, in succession, View in Old Sundered Scar, Nomi's original sketch of New Sundered Scar, Be a Stranger's sketch of the New Sundered Scar looking toward Red Mountain. Ooh. Okay. Apparently we are not meant to see this. I guess I'm gonna look at this tiny image. Old Sundered Scar, yeah, looks a bit bare by today's standards, I suppose. New Sundered Scar. little more lush. And then we have a sketch looking toward Red Mountain. I love myself a good view of the Red Mountain. By 2021, however, we had largely reconceptualized the Sundered Scar as a blasted sulfurous wasteland based on scrapped Bethesda plans for a Great Scathes region, serving as something of an extension of the volcanic Molag Amur region on Vardenfell to its north. Lore-wise, the area was to be House Mora's ancient domain, left vacant and decaying following Nerevar's death, never reclaimed by another Indoril lord out of respect for the dead Hortator. Ooh, that sounds super interesting. I think I remember the Great Scathes. Is this going to link to to this one map that we have of Vardenfell, which is like a concept map, right? This is an interesting one. You can see the Great Scathes right here. A lot of the things on this map do end up being in the game, right? But some of them are maybe not quite in the same place. You can also see the meanings of some of the names, like Balmora is Stonewood, if you know your Dunmeris, which, yeah, it's also a fun bit of trivia for people who maybe don't know. Yeah, but we have like most of the important places already more or less where they ended up being, but the Great Scathes, I think there are like these pools of lava or acid or whatever that is in the game, but we don't really ever get the name, the Great Scathes, from what I remember. House Mora's ancient domain, never reclaimed by another Indoril lord. Okay, a brand new palette of environmental assets was created for the purpose, and the overhaul of the Sundered Scar landscape was opened in mid-2021 to be slowly chipped away at on the background as our main effort continued to be directed at southwestern Morrowind. Gorne. The first bit of Poison Song world space to be finalized was curiously enough not in the Sundered Scar proper at all, but rather the island of Gorne. But we already feature Gorne in the mod, you say? Well, yes, we do have an island named Gorne in the Penamake Ocean just east of Morrowind's coastline, relatively close to where latter TES titles place it. However, we have for many years favored a different reading of the TES 3-book Poison Song, where the idea of the island originates, which instead places it in the inner sea close to Vardenfell. Ah, this is interesting. So I have read the Poison Song once or twice, but I'm not really familiar with this whole Gorne discrepancy or reinterpretation that they have going on here. I'm not even familiar with the name, to be honest. Reminds me of Dorn from Ice and Fire, and maybe even looks a little bit like what I pictured Dorn being in George Martin's book series. So yeah, we have like these occidental sort of roof designs, spires, and okay, take a look at what this is. The Chapel of Gorne stands mourning Nerevar with new Kemel-Ze in the distance. Level designed by Cicero and Pralik. Kemel-Ze in the distance. The famous ruins. Therefore, Poison Song was kicked off by crafting our new take on the island in a bay of the Inner Sea, just across from Azura's shrine on Vardenfell. So that's like really close to Vardenfell. In our lore, the Indoril Chapel of Gorne was raised there in contemplation of the holy temple island of Vardenfell. In gameplay and writing terms, it opens up intriguing possibilities, including better integration of House Indoril into Vardenfell affairs, and a natural jumping-off point for the player into the Indoril storyline. Awesome. I always love to have a new way to organically start playing Tamriel Rebuild content as a character who, always starts on Vardenfell. What I end up doing if I want to do a Tamriel Rebuild playthrough is I do the character creation and then I just teleport straight to Vardenfell and I mean straight to the mainland and treat it as if I had been there the whole time. But it's good to have something more organic as well. Originally made in the green-blue Mournhold tileset from the Elder Scrolls 3 Tribunal, The Indoril chapel present on the island has already been remade in our brand new Indoril exterior tileset, inspired by the old Mournhold architecture seen underneath Tribunal's Mournhold sewers. I gotta say, I don't really remember that architecture. I only played Tribunal once. I will definitely play it again when Almalexia releases, though, because they plan on sort of overhauling the vanilla or Tribunal content and redistributing it into their new city of Almalexia, because they have to completely redo the layout and the design of the city, which it sorely needs, so more power to them. Sundered Scar. The Sundered Scar exterior world space itself has by now been fully realized, barring a small consistency pass. Once a garden of the Indorils, like the lands to its south, it was broken apart during the cataclysms of the First Era and neglected, becoming a mesmerizing but unhealthy land of geysers, fumaroles, and acid pools. Is this the first time we see geysers in Morrowind? That's super interesting. And we have a Velk chilling here, right? Awesome. You know, I really like that TR's mainland feels so different to Morrowind in some places, right? Where it's meant to feel different, it really does feel different. It doesn't have that sort of samey Elder Scrolls 3 look that everything, or that it could end up having easily, you know, if they had put less effort in. A piece of the Sundered Scar Wilderness, level designed by Cicero. Awesome. The Sundered Scar is primarily dangerous dungeon territory. In gameplay terms, a high-level wilderness that quests from more docile areas can direct you towards. Wild beasts from the region and its small out-of-the-way coves are home to a multitude of hideaways, outcasts, and smuggler gangs moving illicit goods between bounteous Vardenfell and the mainland. In the ruins of ancient civilizations, more serious dangers lurk still. Strewn among all this hazard are crumbling remains of the might of House Mora and numerous relics of the Nerevar, one of the main thrusts of the region's House Indoril quests. Ooh, sounds like a fun area to explore, definitely. Sulfur pools. Oh yeah, that's what they are, the Great Gates. Sulfur pools. Sulfur pools and volcanoes are some of the many dangers present in the Scar. Level designed by Obsidian and Chef. Yeah, so this looks more like a barren sort of wasteland with these sulfur pools, which are really cool. Despite the harsh surroundings, a small but hardy folk of Velothi ranchers and sulfur miners eke out a living in Sundered Scar. 3 Velothi settlements dot the region, the biggest being the coastal town of Darvonis, their unofficial capital. Transformed from a small shack village in prior versions of TR to a properly permanent Velothi settlement, Darvonis is the center of a small industry of salt mining and purification that provides the economic backbone of the region, but comes at a cost to the health of its inhabitants. Lacking much great house presence, the town relies on support from its temple and the limited might of the self-organized militia, the Darvonis Watch, a nod to the settlement's TES arena name Darnim Watch, to stave off aggressive beasts and bandits. An enterprising player can do much to help the locals gain the upper hand in these fights. I look forward to it. Level designed by Prelek, the remade town of Marog. Yeah, looks like a proper town this time. I mean, I'm not familiar with its pre-overhaul state, but looks like a proper town to me. On the western edge of the region, you will find the Supai Caravanserai, but in previous versions of the mod stood the In-Between. While the old inn was beloved by TR fans, its lore hardly made sense. The Outlander-heavy clientele clashed with the tone of traditionalist Eastern Morrowind, especially as the NPCs were presented as looters of the ancient and sacred Dun Akafel. Moreover, the Mournhold architecture tileset used in its construction is in current TR earmarked exclusively for the city of Almalexia. The new Caravanserai, freshly NPC'd, still retains that adventurous atmosphere, as well as many of the same NPCs and quests, though substantially Dunmerified. So that's why they did the whole architectural overhaul thing, huh? So they are keeping the vanilla or the Tribunal tileset exclusively for Almalexia. Probably a smart choice. The Supai Caravanserai welcomes weary travelers across the sulfur-blasted Sundered Scar, level designed by Quit. Near Marog, now a new town to the south of TR's original Telvanni Marog, the latter will be tweaked and renamed. You will also find our updated take on the famous Dwemer dungeon of Kemel-Ze. In current TR, this is an absolutely giant dungeon that was unfortunately released in an unfinished state in 2008, where it remains to this day. Interesting, I had no idea there was an unfinished dungeon somewhere in TR. After many aborted attempts at finishing it in the decades since its release, the dungeon will instead be remade entirely new. The old attempt had very little going for it in terms of rewards or even a thought-out plan, so a fresh start was deemed unavoidable. Efforts to remake the interior began already in 2021, but have been on hold for a few years. With the new Kemel-Ze exterior already done and dusted, work must now continue on finishing the interior. Alright, makes sense. Orethan Heartlands. While we hope that you will find the total remake of Sundered Scar exciting enough, especially seeing as it will include tons more quests than were present in the original. Ooh, love myself some quests. By late 2023, we felt that the expansion needed to be more than a redo, so we heaped a big chunk of wholly new land on top. That's right, I think this is a really smart way of doing this, by the way. You know, combining redone content with completely original new content. I think that's a way to kind of please everyone. And by that time, we had fully embraced the previously described backburner readers of old content, of which the Embers of Empire expansion was first and Poison Song will be the second. A gradual but comprehensive plan emerged to bring all of our old pre-2018 Indoril lands up to modern standards. So 2018 is where they basically said, this is good enough, and this is the standard we want to maintain. At least for the Indoril lands. But I think they are still planning on coming back to the Telvannis and the other areas that they did before then, right? This would rely on a large variety of bespoke environmental assets for the 5 regions in question and a strong, coherent characterization and story arc for House Indoril. The lush Orethan Heartlands, level designed by Fremenik and Sasha. I honestly can't wait to find out what the Indoril are like. I mean, I did meet a couple of them in oh god, I can't remember what the place was called, but in the Indoril place that I visited before this overhaul. But I'm really hoping that they have an interesting story arc, something that completely separates them from all the other houses, because the vanilla great houses are, well, all 3 of them are so interesting and so unique in their own way. And I really hope that the TR team can keep this up for the other 2 houses as well. It so happened that by late 2023, the first part of this continuing overhaul was ready to start implementation work, that being the updated Orethan region that surrounds the city of Almalexia. The Orethan forms the lush heartland of the Indoril realm that largely feeds the province's capital, and is home to the majority of the Mournhold district's agriculture and population. In TR's original inception dating back to the mid-2000s, this was the Alt-Orethan region, of which the only slice ever released to players is the little bit surrounding the town of Meralag. This was not a particularly exciting region in terms of environment design. Like all of old TR, it had to rely primarily on vanilla assets, and thus ended up being a somewhat rockier clone of the Ascadian Isles region. So this is what it looks like now. The perilous Sundered Scar transitioning into the docile Orethan, a level designed by Obsidian. And instead, our concept texture and 3D artists created a set of flora, rocks, and ground textures that hew as close as possible to the tiny serving of new environmental assets that shipped with the TES3 Tribunal expansion. The typically singular variants of trees and flowers in Mournhold's cultivated gardens have had several wilder-looking variants added to them, and a ton of wholly new flora make the region pop. The area is still green and lush, in a welcome break from the drabness of much of Morrowind, but the bespoke assets make it clear you are no longer in Kansas. The Ascadian Isles. Yeah, lush areas are particularly lovely to have in Morrowind. Dilmeth Manor, a minor location of House Indoril, level designed by Minerman. I love this little thing here. In Poison Song specifically, we aren't adding the entirety of the vast new Orethan region, much less the metropolis of Almalexia. Instead, we have added a slice of the Heartlands just to the west and north of the great city, directly south of the Sundered Scar region, which is nevertheless packed full of content. The town of Othrenis sits on top of a confluence of trade routes and is the biggest questing center in the Poison Song expansion, level designed by Quit and Pickles. Biggest questing center, you say? I gotta remember this. Othrenis. The biggest settlement here is Othrenis, a prosperous trade city on Veloth's path, which acts as a meeting place for pilgrims and traders moving east from Antherin or north from Dress Islands towards Almalexia. Indoril Beroth, the ruler of the area, turns a handsome profit from the town, but remains suspicious of the wealthy citizens and non-Indoril visitors. A Tribunal Temple questline there will explore the themes of pilgrimage, trade, and heresy. Indoril Beroth. Okay, sounds like a fun character to get to know. I gotta say, this architecture set does look quite unique compared to the vanilla houses. I mean, it looks quote-unquote the closest to the Hlalu, but it really looks nothing like the Hlalu houses. So this is exciting. Oh, this is gonna be cool. More diversity in Morrowind. Nanav, the Steadfast Chapel of Indoril Beroth, level designed by Chef. In addition, the Orethan Heartland just east of Lake Andoram is also where you'll find the Indoril Chapel estate of Nanav, home to the paranoid Indoril Beroth, a relatively fortified border estate, nevertheless known for its beauty of its airy gardens. North of Othrenis, you will find the headquarters of the Order of Doctrine and Ordination, one of the 4 branches of the Ordinators, where we intend to situate our first questline for the Ordinators faction. Excuse me, they are adding playable Ordinators faction? I had no idea that would be a thing. Really? That's super cool. Oh man, I can't wait to roleplay as an Ordinator. That's so good. All right. Exciting. So, House Indoril. Adding the slice of Orethan Heartlands to the release unlocked one of the holy grails that TR players have been waiting for more than 20 years. The ability to join House Indoril. That's right, baby. Much effort had already been spent in the mid-2010s to create a unique character for House Indoril, resulting in the wonderful interactions seen in Roa Dyr in 2019's Antherin expansion. That's right, Roa Dyr, that's the place that I visited. That's the Indoril estate that I've already experienced, but I didn't really spend too much time there. I don't think I did many of the associated quests. A couple of years ago, however, we consolidated and largely transformed this characterization into a comprehensive design document, including a plan for a full Indoril questline. Well, this is tempting. I would love to read this, but I don't want to spoil myself, so let's not do that. The Sigil of House Indoril, art by Swift Oak. Ooh, looks mysterious. One of the unquestionable hegemons of Morrowind, firm but charitable custodians to the garden that is Morrowind and unshakable patrons of the Tribunal Temple, the armistice signed between Vivec and Tiber Septim shook the great house to its core. Seeing the surrender of Morrowind to an outlander warlord as a cataclysm, the surviving Indoril lords have been gripped in doubt and misfunction ever since, mirroring what is happening to their patron, the goddess Almalexia. In their nihilism, they have proven unable to unite in the face of serious challenges to their hegemony, much less effectively counteract the increasingly brazen encroachment by houses Hlalu and Telvanni. You know, that's what we needed in Morrowind, and a house that's even more xenophobic than some of the rest. The addition of the Gorne and Nanav chapels to the already extant Roa Dyr gives us 3 major Indoril power centers, which is enough for the first part of their overarching quest line. All 3 chapels will have separate, relatively low-level quest lines, introducing you to local issues and the personalities of the ruling Indorils. Indoril Sandil of Gorne, the most forward-thinking and adaptable of the 3, may agree to become your patron for real advancement in the venerable house, should you humor his fascination with the legacy of Nerevar in a series of higher-level quests. I can't wait. That sounds so interesting. The legacy of Nerevar? Alright. See, I'm already planning my first playthrough of Poison Song. I'm definitely gonna be an Indoril. I'm going to join the Great House and work for these people. So we have Roa Dyr, and then we have Gorne and Nanav. Alright. Man, this is gonna be so much fun. The House Indoril questline in the Chapel of Gorne will have you explore the legacy of House Mora, level designed by Cicero and Silvone. With the new exterior architecture tileset complete, Indoril material culture promises to be just as evocative as their lore. One of the biggest pieces of Poison Song still in the making is the matching interior architecture tileset. New tilesets are difficult to get right, especially one so centrally important to a large part of the TR experience, but we will get it finished soon enough. Can't wait, guys. Seriously, can't wait. Though I still have a Grasping Fortune to go through, since I've barely begun that playthrough, and I will be resuming it, or maybe restarting it, but there's so much content that I have yet to experience, so take as much time as you need. Roa Dyr and Antherin touch-ups. With these new House Indoril developments, we were faced with the issue of what to do with those bits of the house that were already released in 2019's Antherin under a different design paradigm and using tilesets no longer meant for the purpose. The Indoril-controlled settlements in question dot the surroundings of the Thur River in Antherin, a region that, unlike the eastern Indoril lands, is not slated for a major overhaul, but is already more or less where we want it to be in terms of landscape design. Instead of trying to awkwardly marry the new Indoril with this older take, we decided to overhaul all House Indoril holdings in the western third of their domain in one fell swoop. Probably the smart decision, to be honest. New Roa Dyr, level designed by Silvone. Rip old Roa Dyr, I hardly knew you. Most controversial here will doubtlessly be the redo of Roa Dyr, the towering chapel estate crafted by Nomi, in addition to many interior level designers, and released in the 2019 Antherin expansion. We do admire the beauty of this striking location. It has been the star of our PR images for years after all. But from a game design standpoint, we find it important that Indoril chapels, outside of the city of Almalexia itself, be represented by a singular visual identity. See how the original game makes visual continuity of Imperial, Redoran, Hlalu, and Telvanni holdings very clear. And you're saying this would not be the case if it had been kept in its original state. Right. Well, I'm sure the players will come to terms with this change, because I trust the TR team that it's not going to be a change for the worse. Roa Dyr is renowned across Morrowind for the beauty of its gardens and canals. Moreover, Roa Dyr has always had many deep-seated technical issues, mostly to do with the fact that the Mournhold tileset introduced in the Elder Scrolls III Tribunal is much less versatile than any that shipped with the original game. To compensate for the limited assets, Roa Dyr is skludged or cobbled together from assets in a bewildering variety of orientations and scales. Not only is this cobbling very distractingly apparent to a trained eye, which I don't have, so it wasn't apparent to me, it results in the chapel being quite annoying for players to navigate, and often impossible for NPCs. The excessive amount of game objects used in its construction also make Roa Dyr one of the worst performing areas of the mod, to the extent that many players try to avoid going there. Yeah, that's honestly a problem, and it's a problem with some of the bigger cities like Old Ebonheart and Narcissus to a certain extent as well. In fact, we knew all of that already in 2019, which is why Nomi created the chapel explicitly as a very well executed placeholder, meant to be replaced as soon as we got a bespoke Indoril tileset of our own, though at the time we knew not what that would look like. Ah, so see, they already knew they would be replacing it. Indoril has been transformed from a shack village to a permanent Velothi settlement nestled among ruins of older greatness, updated level design by Pickles. Yeah, I remember going to Dondril. I think it was it was a fairly small place, wasn't it? The new Roa Dyr fixes all of these issues by making use of a much more versatile architecture tileset with pieces that naturally come together to create the same kind of organic and flowing layout laced by canals and gardens. Together with the new quest lines, we hope you learn to love this new Roa Dyr as much as the old take, if not more. I'm sure I will. And Vul is now a proper crossroads of the Eastern Antherin, updated level design by Pickles. Aside from Roa Dyr, the Indoril control a number of villages and hamlets in Eastern Antherin. We decided to also give these a new coat of paint, sometimes more substantial, sometimes only slight. The biggest changes are related to the removal of most wooden shacks from inland settlements in favor of more permanent-looking stucco buildings of the Velothi tileset. This was for two reasons. First, the vanilla game, with few exceptions, uses wooden shacks strictly in seaside locations, which is also subtly reflected in their textures. Second, our House Indoril characterization emphasizes ancient and well-established relationships between the lords, the people, and the land. Indoril lords would provide their peasants the means to build permanent structures, so the temporary feel of the shacks clashes with our vision for the faction. The settlements most affected are Dondril, the village on the crossroads just south of Old Ebonheart that has now been almost entirely remade, and the hamlet of Saveri south of Vul. Felms Ithul on the Thurbank received many of the shacks cut from Dondril, and together with a general rearrangement is now a much more substantial village with a fast travel option of its own. Awesome. Love to have more of these. Imra still retains its atmosphere as a shady fishing town, but now with 80% less cobbling. Updated level design by Pickles. The second set of changes were to remove cobbling using the Velothi tileset with the help of a large variety of new tileset pieces made since the region was originally developed. This most affected settlements like Vul, which additionally underwent a significant change in layout, making it feel more central to the region, but also Imra on the Lake Andoram shore. The changes are somewhat subtle and the vibes of these settlements remained largely the same. Yeah, so this is territory that I have explored previously, at least in small bursts, so these are changes that I would have probably noticed, but I'm excited to explore these places with a new lens, so to speak. Selin, a small but cozy hamlet just south of Roa Dyr, updated level design by Ager. The smaller hamlets like Selin and Rilsoan received very light touch-ups to make them look more like hamlets and less like farms, and to make sure each of them offered something of value to players, be they a healer or a scout. Otherwise, they'd just be window dressing. Brilliant. Amazing change. Still a rundown shack village, Rilsoan now boasts some more varied buildings, updated level design by Ager. Yes, I remember this place. There was like a cave diving quest there. There is also the abandoned Indoril chapel of Turjulan, towering over western Antherin, which used to be cobbled from TS3 Tribunal's old Mournhold meshes. Many of the same issues that plagued Roa Dyr were also present here, perhaps to an even greater extent due to the even more limited tileset. This too has now been brought in line with other Indoril chapels using bespoke ruined meshes. The remade ruins of Turjulan overlook the Antherin, updated Turjulan level design by Pickles. Man, that is just beautiful. I love the distant view there, and the rocky formations are so interesting. The vegetation, this is beautiful. Don't tell me Morrowind isn't beautiful. Look at this, it's gorgeous. Lastly, some other minor touch-ups may or may not happen in the wider Antherin region, depending on how our exterior level designers are on time. We hope to finish the half-done flora overhaul and derooking from 2023, improving consistency, navigability, and performance, to widen the Thur River mouth to make it a more plausible avenue of waterborne transport, and eventually to polish up the small Hlalu settlements on the western bank of the Thur. Old Ebonheart quest touch-ups. I hope there are also some performance optimizations in there, but I don't know, quest touch-ups isn't making me exactly optimistic in that regard. Another loose thread from around the same area are the quest lines in Old Ebonheart. One of the trade-offs of our episodic release structure is siloing of quests, Whereas TS3 regularly sends you all across Vardenfell with its quests, our release structure forces us to mostly stick to within a single expansion's area. Hence, we are always on the lookout for opportunities to tie different release areas better together. One of the obvious ways to deal with Poison Song and the areas directly west of it would be to redirect some old Ebonheart's quests to the Sundered Scar region. After all, the Scar is a large, reasonably high-level wilderness, a perfect place to send players on mid to high-level sojourns away from the crammed city. I honestly love that they are thinking about this more because, yeah, the siloing of quests is definitely something that could happen with a project like this. But from what I've seen, they do a pretty good job of tying the different areas together once both of the affected areas are out, you know? But since we are messing around with old Ebonheart already, the fact is that many of its questlines remained half-finished in the original 2018 release. Really? See, I was under the impression that they considered the old Ebonheart questlines like some of the best, some of the more varied, almost offering too many options compared to vanilla, you know? I think I read something like that. This was most apparent with the Imperial Cult and Fighters Guild factions, which ended on cliffhangers. But plans were left unfinished with many of the other questlines too. With Poison Song, we finally found the will and opportunity to finalize these. Amazing. See, I haven't played these two particular guilds. I have played through the Old Ebonheart Thieves Guild, which was a pretty amazing questline. The Old Ebonheart Fighters Guild is an elite guild chapter that has the luxury of staying above the fray of house politics, something that many guild chapters in Morrowind are unable to do. Its revamped questline will now focus on contracts given by Imperial citizens and the city's complex relationship with the Indoril. That sounds like an interesting subject for sure. Approaching the famous ruins of Kemel-Ze, level designed by Prelek. Ooh. They don't look that big from the outside, but apparently they are giants, so I'm excited to see that. The Imperial Cult questline will end its teasing of the sadly unimplementable mystery play. While that theme will still be retained, the play itself will now happen off-screen, as such events do in the vanilla game. I'm not familiar with the mystery play. Well, perhaps it's for the best now that I know that it's not happening. New additions to the questline will instead focus on Talos worship, Brass Fever, and touch upon Old Ebonheart's history in its own way. The whole thing will end on a grand, old-fashioned artifact hunt, as Imperial Cult questlines always do. The Imperial Legion questline will be made a little more vanilla-like, with a reduction in scripted sequences that reduce player agency. It will also tie in more with Old Ebonheart themes, like the Delagia gang that is the antagonist to the local Thieves Guild, I'm very familiar with those, or relations with the Indoril. The end piece will be the investigation of General Kasek's guild, the Simulacrum-era leader of Old Ebonheart who started a war with Firewatch. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's a cool bit of lore there. Previously an odd half-miscellaneous quest, it will now be given the centrality and gravity it deserves. The links between Old Ebonheart and the Outer Realms will be explored further. Level design by Cicero. Okay, that just looks like a wasteland with some lava. Honestly, it reminds me a bit of Fallout 4. Some of the deepest changes will be in the Old Ebonheart Mages Guild questline. While it contained some great moments, the questline was a patchwork of different ideas, and we were never satisfied with the full package. The remade version will make the whole thing more coherent, cut the more frustrating quests while adding many new ones, and bring both Kalan and the Puzzle Mansion, previously side gigs, to the center. The questline will now finish on high-stakes Daedric negotiations deep in oblivion. Ooh, that sounds so epic. Perhaps more controversial are the touch-ups of the Old Ebonheart Thieves Guild. Oh, here we go. The whole questline, with its often railroady structure, hews far from the simpler Morrowind-style role-player-friendly stuff that we prefer these days. But it is undoubtedly fun and beloved by many, so the changes aren't very deep at all, don't worry. We have cut some of the more superfluous choices, made the technical structure of the quest much more maintainable, made it more critical to develop good thieving skills, and removed some of the moralizing regarding player choices. I think I do remember some of the moralizing. Yeah, that's probably an improvement here. The beginning quest, however, which with its obvious and unavoidable hazing ritual was a frequent target of player criticism, has been cut. Yeah, that's right. The quest line starts off like that. Yeah, it's been a while since I played it. I mean, not that long, but maybe like a year or something. But I remember it enough to also remember the this is the East Empire Company, right? It says that here, but yeah, this is a location that I frequented often. The offices of the old Ebonheart East Empire Company, level designed by Nomi. Finally, the East Empire Company questline, which already received a whole new chapter late last year, has been somewhat expanded and otherwise substantially polished up to make the whole package shine. The main themes have been kept familiar, but this is now one honkin' big questline. Well, then there's the long-teased old Ebonheart nightly tournament. We'll see if we can squeeze that in too. Nightly tournament? Excuse me? That sounds super interesting. That sounds like the arena in Oblivion. All right, so in total, while we expect some pushback on particular changes to these well-known and beloved quest lines, we hope you will appreciate the greatly expanded quest content and improved coherence. And this is what we're here for, where we are today. So, how close to release is the Poison Song expansion? As always, it's tough to say as the tempo of the project waxes and wanes with how much time and energy our volunteers have to devote to the project, and that seldom depends on us. What we can give you instead is an overview of where we are at with the major tasks remaining prior to the release. Exterior environments for the expansion are more or less finished, as are most dungeons and civilized interiors using the Velothi tile set. Much of the required creature and NPC addition work has been done, as have many miscellaneous quests and a number of full quest lines. A significant item still blocking further work is our Indoril interior architecture tileset, which is needed before we can open up interior level design claims for the Gorne, Nanav, and Roa Dyr chapels, as well as Stilmeth Manor and the reworked Turjulan. The interior tileset is in the process of being polished from a technical perspective, which is a tough task. It needs to be almost flawless before substantial interior design work can begin, so we wouldn't need to redo recent level design work should any fundamental issues be found. Thankfully, this doesn't really block most quest work, as placeholder locations can be used instead. It's really interesting that they work on quests with placeholder locations. I had no idea. A number of other interior level design claims remain in progress as well, mostly being dungeons, whereas some new ones may be opened later as the numerous village reworks get finalized. Many otherwise finalized interior locations still need a technical and stylistic review from our senior QAers prior to being merged into our in-development main plugin. The big outstanding interior level design item outside of the Indoril chapels remains the Dwemer ruin of Kemel-Ze. Nevertheless, interior level design is progressing at a steady and promising clip. Some smaller tasks still remain on the exterior level design front, a rework of Saveri village, widening of the Thur River mouth, and a general polishing and consistency pass over the Sundered Scar and Orethan Heartlands regions that will also add the few final pieces of flora currently still in asset development. Removal of TR's old Kemel-Ze and a rework shrinking of the peninsula it sits upon is also still ongoing. The biggest remaining item is undoubtedly the finalization of NPCs and quest lines, a task that will run right up to the eve of release. Several parts of the old Ebonheart questline reworks are already merged, as is even one House Indoril questline and many miscellaneous quests. Many more remain in the works, however, or are blocked by interior level design or NPCing work. Overall, the pace is good on all fronts, and finalization of the expansion is expected to be a matter of months away. So, could it be December, or is it going to be 2026? Honestly, I didn't mind either way. If it's December, great. If it's not, great. I'll still be here playing and enjoying amazing Tamriel rebuild and Project Tamriel content. And yes, if you would like to see our work go faster, consider joining the project as a developer. Modding TS3 is famously easy, and our well-polished tutorials, guides, and onboarding process make it a breeze. Most of our developers had no experience in game design or modding prior to joining. It's super fun too. You know, I might consider that. All right, that's it from the TR team for today. An amazing article. I really enjoyed reading that, and I I very much look forward to the expansion. I hope you are as well. All right, thank you for joining me today. I have been Savle, and have a great one. Bye.